Hey everyone, I'm Jenny Johnson and I'm here today with my co-trainer Phyllis Barrington.
Good afternoon. My name is Phyllis Barrington, and we are Fiddlers. Fiddlers stands for Florida Diagnostic Learning Resources Systems. Of course, I have to give you the little spill of who we are and what we are here to provide for you today. We are a discretionary project with the Bureau of Exceptional Student Services and the Department of Education. We service 3 counties, which is Clay, Nassau, and Duval, where there are 18 service centers in the state of Florida, and yours is located right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Fiddlers has 4 functions. One of those 4 functions is parent services. What we're doing today, we're providing a service to parents, providing them with a free training. And if you have any questions regarding this training or any other trainings that we could possibly provide, please feel free to contact us at our website at www.fiddlerscrown.org. We will again list that website at the end. We also have our HRD, which is our Human Resource Development, and we provide services to the schools, teachers, throughout the community, and everything that we do is free and for our students with disabilities. Finally, we have our Child Find that locate our students that are 3 to 5 years of age, making sure that those students that have been identified as possibly having a disability are connected with those services prior to entering school and making sure that those services are attached to that student. And finally, we have our technology division, and they work with our parents, teachers, students, the whole gambit, to make sure that our students that have significant cognitive disabilities as well as communication issues to make sure that they're able to let you know what's going on with them. So we want to make sure that they have all of their needs met as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my camera, and I'm going to let Jenny share her screen, and we're going to begin with strategies for success executive functioning. So let's do this. Our objectives today is for you to know how executive function deficits impact our learners. Understand how to improve behavior through executive functioning strategies, and increase knowledge of interventions and strategies designed to promote academic skills and increase social interactions. Now, this is an opportunity where you can participate with us, and we want to ask you, what do you think an independent learner looks like? In your chat, go ahead and chat for us. Tell me what you think independent learners look like. Research has shown that successful independent learners have the traits of being curious, motivated, self-examine, and self-monitor. They are accountable and responsible. They are critical thinkers, problem solvers. They don't have to have someone standing over them to give them instruction. They may understand it without that. Good comprehension skills, very persistent, and have good time management. But do we have children who still experience not being able to follow classroom procedures, need step-by-step instructions for everything, cannot begin a task, they struggle starting task initiation, they seem overwhelmed by information and directions, they procrastinate until the last minute, have impulsive behaviors, they lack social filters, and I'm going to stop there and say some of our adults could tend to have some of these things as well. So we have to look at ourselves as well when we're talking about executive functioning skills and our children. We lose or forget things and or leave a trail of their stuff behind. And these are our kids that can never find anything. Their backpack looks a mess. Call out during lessons. They're often irrelevant information and say unkind things without considering the feelings of others. So, what are executive functions? It is actually the brain's ability to access and coordinate all of its functions in order to effectively execute a plan that we have in place. It's necessary for learning in everyday life. These are everyday skills that we have to have. Executive function helps direct and manage the cognitive, emotional, and behavioral functioning of everyone. And what it really looks like is, imagine having a conductor directing the orchestra. He manages and plans who is going to lead this stanza versus the next one. Because if you think about it, the woodwinds may have the first melody, and then it transfers over to the percussion section and then to the brass section. It helps plan and manage and sustain attention, organize, using your working memory, monitoring the behavior, and inhibit impulses.
Yeah, so Phyllis, this brings to mind for me, it would be nice if we had that conductor in all of our classrooms or even in our house where we just kept that steady beat of follow me, come with me, do what I say, let me help you. But we don't have these people and these things going along with us every single day. And as teachers and parents, you don't want to become that person unless it's temporary to teach the students how to do these things themselves, because it does not help them for us to always be the ones who step in and manage everything, because they still lack that deficit or have that deficit that they need to develop. So that's very important.
Yes. So with that, we're going to talk about 8 executive functioning skills. One being impulse control, thinking before you act, emotional control, how to keep your feelings in check, being flexible or having flexible thinking, adjusting your behavior to when things don't actually go your way, if unexpected things happen, your working memory, keeping key information in mind and when will you use it, self-monitoring, being aware of how one is doing in that moment, planning and prioritizing how to set and meet your goals, task initiation, taking action, how to get started with a task, and finally, organization. And I think all of us may struggle in some capacity when it comes to organization, how to keep track of things physically and mentally.
Absolutely. And self-monitoring, I'm not sure of everybody's age on this call, but I was watching Everyone Loves Raymond the last couple of nights. He has 2 little twin boys playing basketball, and of course one's athletic up and down the court and the other one's over there bouncing around looking at his shoes, not even knowing what's going on. So that's what comes to mind for me for self-monitoring. The children don't even realize sometimes they're even out in left field. So in the classroom, they stand out pretty easily for us. And as parents of multiple children, it stands out pretty easily at home. But that's something that definitely needs to be taught, and children just don't always naturally have that ability.
Mm-hmm. So why is it important for us to have the need for control over our executive functioning? For students, it's because of their behavioral, cognitive, and emotional skills need to be developed in order for them to function in society. They should be able to inhibit, plan, and persist by mentally disengaging from the immediate context, that immediate gratification I want right now, and organizing, being able to approach things and organize your thoughts, plan and prioritize, and be persistent and monitor. So one quick fact, and we love to give you this, a child's executive functioning skills in kindergarten predict their reading and math achievement into middle school and beyond. So the good news is that executive functioning skills are more malleable than other cognitive skills. With consistent implementation of research-based strategies, they can be improved. So there's still hope. There's still hope. So let's take a minute to watch a quick video on executive functioning skills. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that you all know how to read color words. Further, I'm going to assume that you can recognize your basic colors, which is red, yellow, blue, orange, purple, green, and black. They should be easy, right? Well, this
We'll
is,
see.
don't laugh at them because they have to do this. And I want you to since you are there by yourself or wherever you are, try to follow along using the directions that are being given to you that are presented.
And when you
And
start stumbling, don't get negative with yourself. Just hang in there.
mm-hmm.
Here we go.
How did you do? I'm looking to see if any parents, how did you do? So even if you know your colors and words, as the video got faster and faster, you may have struggled to keep up. Some of you may have even given up. That is what happens with executive functioning. As we pile on more and more new information or set time limits or expect children to understand concepts as fast as other children, we are challenging their executive functioning skills. If the task is too challenging or stressful, many of our children will give up. Okay, so it is important to remember some executive functioning is learned through everyday problem solving and play. So as parents, we are it's natural for us to want to remove all the obstacles out of our child's way and just help them through this without them having to learn how to problem solve. But that's part of them growing up and improving their executive functioning skills. Making mistakes and figuring it out is a large part of learning, but some executive functioning skills have to be developed through modeling and practicing. This may include their academics, memory, social functioning, completing chores, following directions, managing their emotions. Think about it. Reinforcing a skill that isn't there just reinforces that the skill isn't there. Someone telling you you can't do something constantly and keep reiterating that you can't do something breaks your confidence and literally just breaks you down. So
Right.
we have to be cognizant of that. Go ahead, Jenny.
Sorry, yeah, Phyllis. And this is also where I go back to the statement I said earlier. As parents and as teachers too, when you just run through it and take over and do it for the student, and they never really have to go through actually not being successful at something, and you're always covering for them in the moment, we feel like we're helping, but you're really not. You're just continuing to reinforce that what's needed still isn't there. So instead of making it a really targeted thing sometimes, that's why playing some type of fun game is important, just following rules and taking turns and things of that nature. Like a parent of a only child, I only have one son. I can see now, he's 25 now, but I can still see evidence of sometimes he just doesn't do things like you normally would to pick up and just take care of it because it was done for him. So just being aware of that and not trying to take care of everything and giving them the opportunity to take the time necessary to go through and have that little bit of failure, sometimes that's making connections that are very, very important for them.
So, skill development, what and how. So, directly teaching instructional, behavioral, and social skills strategies, we have to make sure that we are describing the strategy. Be very explicit in what it is we want them to do. Model how it is used. You cannot tell a child what to do and not show them how to do it. Provide assisted practice time. Practice results in automaticity. So the student doesn't have to think about how to use the strategy. It becomes second nature to them. Promote self-monitoring and evaluation of the personal strategy. What happens is once they use the strategy enough, they'll figure out the shortcuts for them just to get the best result for them, and encourage them to continue to use and generalize this generalization of the strategy. They need to be able to continue with those executive functioning skills once they have come up with a strategy to help them with their deficit. Memory
Absolutely.
is shot. My memory is shot.
Mm-hmm.
But my executive functioning thing for me, I have made it where I put things in a place all the time so that I know where my purse is every day when I come home. I put it in a certain place. I put my keys on a ring so that I don't have to go searching and finding. So those are the types of skills that I had to develop as I've gotten older to make sure, because your memory does tend to kind of fade a little, making sure that we have those things put in place. Go ahead, Jenny.
Absolutely. And even all of us with our technology and putting things on a calendar and even phone numbers, who can even remember a phone number now? You just say, Siri, call so and so. So there's things that work for us. And keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind, when you start an organization system for a student that's a 3-ring binder with color coded folders, in your mind, it may make complete sense, but they need to be taught explicitly how to use it, how to practice it before it becomes second nature for them. So we have to make sure we don't assume that they're able to catch on quickly. They need that experience with that repeat drill and practice to actually accomplish it positively.
Mm-hmm. So our first area we're going to talk about is inhibition. And what is inhibition? It's that impulse control, that self-discipline. It helps people think before they act. It helps keep your feelings in check and brings rational thought. Some of those deficits when it comes to inhibition: blurting out inappropriate things, overreacting to something that probably didn't require the reaction they gave, can't wait for things, engage in risky behavior, trouble dealing with criticism or negative feedback when things go wrong. Some of our kids don't know how to take criticism, but they need to learn how to take it in the sense that it's going to help me grow, and wants immediate gratification. And this is, I think, just that generation where they want immediate gratification because everything is immediate for them. What do you think, Jenny?
Yeah, I so totally agree with that. So when you see children and you see these behaviors, no matter how old they are, small, elementary, middle, or high, don't just jump to the assumption that they lack social skills. There may be deficits in the area of inhibition related to executive functioning, and we need to see how we can help them get over those and overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So some strategies for inhibition: out of sight, out of mind. You can support children with timely reminders. Teach them how to use their little calendars and set reminders a day ahead, 15 minutes ahead, an hour ahead. Those are great tools. Even playing games, we mentioned that earlier. Chess is very, very hard, but chess is also very good when it comes to executive functioning. Allowing children to take breaks, turning must do task into want to task. If they can actually internally think about what I'm going to accomplish, it no longer is, oh my gosh, I have to do this. It's, you know what, I actually want to get this done because I want to be successful when I complete this. Being an emotional coach, you have to be patient, step back from everything and not rush in and take over, and take stock in the way you handle misbehavior. Don't overreact and blow up because we all are in the time machine. We don't have time for this, we don't have time for that. But just make sure it's not really misbehavior, it's addressing skills and help to teach to become better. And then remember that kids do need autonomy regardless of their age. They like being in control, but as the parents and teachers, we always are. But just go ahead and set your limits up front about what it looks like for your students. And as long as they choose one of these ways, then you still are ultimately in control, but then they have some buy-in as well.
Hmm. Sometimes it's hard for us as parents to stick to the program if you don't remember the rules, and young children have more trouble keeping our directions in mind. They are easily distracted. So it's helpful to remind young children about your expectations, and much research has been conducted on the benefits of playing games. Just like Jenny said earlier, chess is probably above me, but red light, green light, when we think about little kids, freeze, Simon says, they all help. Okay. So with task initiation, it helps people take action to get started. Difficulty getting started on a task, they may freeze up or because they do not know where to begin, or they may have difficulty generating ideas, response, or problem solving strategies. With with task initiation, these are some of the strategies that we see they would benefit from: clear, concrete expectations, interactive checklists, timers. You'd be surprised. Utilizing a timer is so beneficial for our students. Private workspace and reflection and reinforcement. You'll see in the center there is a interactive checklist of a to do and what has been done. The accomplishment, the feeling of accomplishment once you have moved your to do to done is a great feeling. So that helps with that task initiation for those students. A work checklist, getting those materials together. When it's Sunday night, what do they need to have ready for Monday morning? Getting them having a checklist started. Have a timer that goes off when there's things that need to be done, or we're getting ready to leave in about 10 minutes. So all of those things need to be in place. What do you think, Jenny?
Yeah, I would agree. So timers, I'm a really big fan of because many students do struggle when they see a timer ticking off and they get stressful and anxiety and it sets in. However, it's important for self-awareness and self-determination that children do time themselves sometimes to see how long it is taking them to do something, because once they understand that time factor and then they can compare themselves to others, although it's really not about always being in a competition, but we do want to see that normalcy factor. It helps them identify why it's important and how they need to move and things they can cut through. And then the visual checklist that you see on the right side, that makes me think of our students who transition from elementary to middle, where we go to A day, B day, sometimes block scheduling. Sometimes parents find it easier to have just two separate bags. Here's your A stuff, here's your B stuff. On this day, you're going to need this bag. Sometimes expense becomes an issue too. So then you start dumping the bag and just replacing things in and out. So anything you can do to organize and help prep will help in this task initiation area.
Mm-hmm. So also with that, you can have checklists and task cards. What's first, what's then, what's last. The next area is time management. Knowing the task, the steps involved, and how long it would take is the time estimation. Many of our students, many of our children don't know how to manage their time wisely, and identifying what robs your time. Is it talking on the phone? Is it on social media, surfing the computer? Do you have paper problems? Those types of things are our task robbers that cuts away from our time. And they need to be
Absolutely.
aware of that. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Phyllis, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
No, go
the
ahead.
time robbers too, surfing the computer. We all love our children to use access to technology, but if they can't stay focused on what they're doing and they're spending time doing other things, then maybe the computer is not going to be an allowable support for this task. So just being aware of that.
Hmm. So, to help with time management, our calendars. We live by our calendars on a daily basis, and many of our kids now have cell phones. Make them utilize those cell phones by putting information in those cell phones, dates, times, what time do they need to be at this practice. This class happens at such and such a time. Mom's picking me up here at this time, and the timer goes off. Putting all those things and those reminders in the calendar, and having day planners. I remember back in years ago, Duval County used to have agenda planners for students, and many of our, I mean, they had them for everybody from elementary all the way to high school. And it's really nice that you can see that agenda. What do I have to do next week? And teachers and parents were so in sync when they had those agendas, and they could look at those agendas and say, okay, I know that this is coming up, and I know he has a test next week. We need to prepare for this. So those types of things, making sure that those are in place.
Absolutely. And I love when I'm using a calendar, I like a color code system and I think about the traffic light. So red, get it now, it's urgent. Yellow, I have a little time, so it's not the priority. And then green, I'm good to go right now and I don't have to address it. And then, of course, when you're finished with things, putting a big old check mark and showing that you're done and moving on just gives you that little reinforcer and congrats of, hey, did it, good, phew, moving on. So color
Mm-hmm.
coding is also good in that.
Always. And using, again, visuals, timers, schedules, and checklists. All of these things, even as parents, we can do that. Now, we have this thing called practice mindfulness. Many of our kids are suffering from anxiety. And when you put a, just like Jenny said earlier, sometimes timers kind of increase their anxiety, but possibly doing yoga, go noodle, and having little sensory areas in the house for our students that are on the spectrum or may need some type of a sensory diet to help them regulate their feelings right now, their emotions. Those are the types of things. So this is something else to put in place as a strategy, practicing mindfulness.
Yes, and one of my favorites, even at bedtime when I get ready just to close the end of the day out, to shut the mind down, I pull my phone out and listen to green noise, just about 5 or 6 minutes, but it's enough just to shake the brain and it won't allow you to listen or think about anything else. So it's a good way just to reset.
Hmm. So now, I think this is where we probably are going to touch on a lot of our students with their attention and focus and what it looks like. They need to have brain breaks. When it comes to that attention and focus, many of our students need to have hand-on activities. Um, there's strategies to increase that attention and focus. They need, I love memory. I love Jenga and frequent check-ins throughout when they're doing things. Check on them to see where they are in a task. Card and board games are great. These kids love Uno, love Uno. We find ourselves as adults on our weekends playing games, and these things are great. Doing mazes, digital games, having those memory games on the phone, great activities for them.
And the frequent check-ins, Phyllis, just to piggyback on that, it's important for you as parents as well as teachers to do your frequent check-ins because what we want to do is stop when things aren't correct. If they're practicing something and it's not going to be beneficial to help them remain or retain that focus, we want to break that as soon as possible because you all know the longer we practice something and we have time invested in that, we think it's part of our normal makeup and it's okay. So if we see things that aren't working correctly, you want to actually have time to go in and stop it before we have a pattern we have to unteach.
Hmm. So organization, this is my thing. I love organizing things. Organization is a critical skill as it often flows over into other areas of an individual's life. There's a few examples of what organization looks like includes keeping a neat and orderly room, writing an essay with a clear beginning, middle, and end. That means their thoughts are very clear and precise. Bringing required materials such as pencils to class, having a neat and tidy binder, and developing an organized approach to completing a project. I think about when my daughter started middle school, I felt it was going to be that difficult task for her A days and B days. So I gave her, I had that thing Jenny talked about, the two backpacks. She had an A day backpack and a B day backpack just to get her to transition into middle school. And then once she was good to go, she knew that when we came home on A day, she had to do all of her A day homework, put everything back in her A day backpack. And it was color coded because one was blue and one was green. So her B day backpack was green. And everything, the next day she'd go to school with the B day backpack and come back, do the homework in B day, but A day was already done. So all she had to do was just pick up her A day backpack and go. So some of those deficits when it comes to organization loses their train of thought, especially when they're interrupted, loses items like phone, homework, other materials, they mix up their assignments, doesn't bring what is needed for task completion, and the desk appears messy, full of crumpled papers, folders are unorganized. And this is what it looks like. See how the top looks? Now look at the bottom. This is their classroom. This is what a disorganized person, a organized workspace into specific areas is really nice. When you have a student who knows where to put things in and never have to go searching and finding. And you want to minimize the clutter. It's just very chaotic when things are everywhere. And we have to help them. You have to show them how to organize because this is one of their deficits. You can't tell them to clean their room and they don't know how to clean. They don't know how to organize. So this is just part of being a parent, just helping them get their organizational skills in check.
Yes, and students always want to know the why, and the why is because your brain is going to function and work just like a Rolodex is, and our poor little children don't even know what a Rolodex is. But for us, we know how to write things on cards, compartmentalize it, anything related to that person. We've got their name, their address, their phone number, something they tell us about themselves, so the next time we talk to them, we may remember it. Your brain works the same way. So your brain's always looking to go access that last time you saw that information. So if you have it neat and orderly, then it's easier for your brain and your working memory to follow through with what's needed at the moment instead of going through random shots, trying to be grasping at things you can't remember where to go to. So that's why the cleaning is so important and having those rules and routines.
Mm-hmm. So next is flexibility. This is the ability to change course when what you are doing isn't working, ability to adapt to change easily, even to the unexpected, and the ability to take advantage and seize opportunities when they arise, even if it means changing the course. So some of those deficits in flexibility look like this. You have trouble rolling with the punches. They're frustrated when asked to think from a different perspective. You only see one perspective. Loses interest in a task or project, leaves it unfinished. Trouble switching gears, especially when new skills or tasks are presented. And they panic when routines or rules are changed.
Absolutely. And deficits and flexibility makes me think about for our early learners, our little elementary kiddos, reading those Jeannie B. Jones books. She is a hot mess and she's so funny as a character. But having students read stories about other people, sometimes it's easier to have those conversations about deficit areas when you're not being so direct and making it about them, but they can still learn what's needed by using a social story or someone else that's imaginary or using fiction. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes stories do a great deal in helping us address things without the student internalizing and being too sensitive about it.
So here are some examples. A child is engaged in one project and it's time to clean up and start something else. One of the strategies that we came up with was practice shifting through role play and or providing advance notice of what is coming. Let them know what's going to happen next. And to help them transition from what's happening now to where we're going, let's give them a timer. Let's put a timer in place. Our next one is a child has a task to do, such as set the table as the helper, but cannot stay attentive to the task because every time she sees a toy she likes, she is distracted. Well, out of sight, out of mind. Remove the toy, provide a checklist or visual support. We can do social stories about how to finish this task. Let's talk about how you're supposed to set the table and reinforce that child's efforts for completing the task, even the small ones. Do the first, then next activity with them. First do the table, and then you can play with the toy. The last one, a child who is accidentally bumped by another child automatically responds by hitting or pushing. Take the perspective of the other person. Make them stand in that other person's shoes and formulate a solution to the problem. How do we solve this problem without using our hands? Recognize triggers and teach active listening and speaking. Show them how to react to a situation. So some fun strategies to help increase their flexibility. These are just some of the games that we probably already have in the house. Something like distraction, Max, and Jenga. Jenga is actually one of our favorites. Jenga is one of those skills that is across the board when it comes to executive functioning. So if you don't have it, I suggest you go purchase you a Jenga and try it with your kids. It's about taking turns, being flexible, your working memory. It has all of those things in place. Working memory. Working memory is the ability to act on past memories and manipulate information in new situations. So the working memory allows us to learn. Using working memory skills, we can use past information in reading in order to read sight words. And this is something that happens every day with our kids. They have sight words that they have to do. We can remember math facts, state capitals, mnemonics, phone numbers, addresses, and friends' names. Not so much phone numbers anymore. Jenny made a comment about that earlier, how we just say Siri, call, da 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 da. But what happens if you lose your phone? What number do these kids know? They need to know an emergency number and not just be able to ask Siri, because what if Siri's not working? What if their phone dies? We can then use that information to answer questions based on what we know and apply that information to new situations.
And working memory is so crucial too, because the brain naturally operates because it likes patterns and repetition. So the more you can do to establish patterns in your directions and the expectations and the processes you want the child to go through to be able to completely successfully complete something, that's going to build that working memory. That's just active practice. The goal is to get to long-term memory, but it's not going to get there if working memory has that deficit and you're not accessing short-term and building upon those patterns and routines.
Exactly. So some of the simple strategies for working memory: keep calm and just tell me. Also, you'll see this is just an example of taking some guided notes. Have the child repeat back what you said just to get clarity. So it helps them to remember what needs to be done.
And the repetition part is great when you have multiple children at the house, even at dinner when you're eating together. When something comes up, say, hey, so-and-so, can you restate for me what you think you heard the other person say? It's good to check and validate, because so often as adults, we realize we do this too. In our brains, we're so comfortable with the knowledge we're talking about that we're talking through it, but we're not giving enough information to make sense for other people. So it's good to reflect back and actually go backwards a little to make sure that what you are saying and what you are doing is including all of those pieces. So something simple like that of just repeating it back or having someone else paraphrase is a good tool for this.
Hmm. And reminder messages, including verbal, picture, or app-based, reward the students for remembering. Thank you for getting your backpack ready. A good job getting your lunch ready. Just giving them that reinforcement and making sure that you have those daily rituals and routines in place. If you can remember when you first had your child, your parents will always tell you, put that baby on a schedule right away. That's how you're going to get some rest. You need to keep those kids on a schedule. When it's something that's predictable for them, they get used to it. Again, Jenny says repetition is very important for them.
And the before I click to the next screen, the center
Hmm.
picture you see now with the star going, great job. It's great to reward, especially if you want to see a pattern of behavior repeated, but be explicit with what you saw that was good. Just simply saying great job to someone that has executive functioning issues is not helping them understand what they did correctly. So be explicit about what you saw that was great. If it was the book bag, I like the way your book bag looks now. I can actually see organization. I can see that you're organized and things are divided. Be explicit about what they're doing correctly. And then this screen shows the memory test. That's similar to what you were doing before. Concentration is a wonderful game regardless of your age. Putting cards down where you've got multiple pairs and you flip to try to remember where they were, that's a wonderful game that improves working memory. And it's fun. It takes it away from the academic task at hand, but it's a good strategy that certainly will benefit that academic opportunity.
Hmm. So, emotional control. The National Center for Learning Disabilities stated that kids who are lacking in impulse control have a diminished ability to regulate their speech and behavior. They find it difficult to stop and think. They haven't learned to ask what's happening here, when this happened to me before, what did I do? And if I say this or do that, will I help the situation or will I make it worse? They have trouble following rules and directions and sitting still in class. They may seem to talk incessantly and interrupt others. So when that happens, we want to make sure that we're teaching the student to recognize cues to emotion. Label emotions and do not assume students understand their own emotions. Remember, we as adults sometimes don't understand our own emotions. So don't assume that they understand theirs either. Sometimes play out, role play, and model what it would look like. And use active listening. If your child is telling you, Mommy, I'm angry, that's that dialogue you need to have with them. Well, baby, why are you angry? What's making you angry? That's what we want to do. Here we have a coping skills wheel, and this gives us ways to handle those big emotions on a day to day basis for our young kids. This is definitely for our younger kids. And then this right here on to the right is called a social story. And we actually do these at our office. So we provide those with the schools as well as if parents, if we ever do a parent training, we do social stories so that you can create a social story for your child that you may need to have some conversations about something that's being introduced for them.
Right, and especially the picture on the right that you see here, primarily that's for students who are nonverbal or have very limited ability to communicate, and so you attach the visual along with it, and you actually teach what each of those feel like, looks like, and so they're able to tell you how they're feeling, and that does take some time. It's very frustrating for a student who can't communicate as everyone else, and then they don't even understand how they're feeling. So that's very important for their access to communication.
Hmm.
And here's a stop, think, act. That's going back to the red light, yellow light, green light. Just a great strategy to teach them through before you blow. Let's calm down and think about this. And then an anger meter. Putting words to a chart to help them actually see definitions and interact with that and then put themselves there. Then they can start using numbers with you or words and better understand what those feelings are.
Hmm. So you must teach these skills. You must teach the deficit skills. Do not assume they will just magically develop. They will not. Use the child's interest as a motivator. Find out what that child loves or likes that's going to motivate them to do what needs to be done. Provide just enough support, then fade gradually. We can give you our emails, and if you'd like, we can. I see someone asked if these would be available for us to print and have at home. If you could send one of us an email, we could definitely make sure that we get you some stuff, and we'll exchange that information with you through our email. So keep some support in place until they achieve mastery, and always be aware of small successes.
And I did put our emails in the chat for you all, but we'll do that at the end as well again. And so Phyllis, we're at self-monitoring.
Okay. And this is our final area, which is self-monitoring. And some of the strategies that we have for self-monitoring is to use outlines for tasks, especially those with several steps. With self-monitoring, students have to be more aware of what's going on around them. They're monitoring what they're doing in the moment. Use a self-monitoring schedule, having visual reminders of appropriate behaviors. Implement a sensory diet if appropriate. This is when our students have probably reached heightened emotions at that time, and they need something to help them regulate those emotions or whatever is going on with them. And once that sensory diet has taken place and we've regulated what's working for them, they can go back to the task. Teach self-talk strategies. I can do this. I can try my best. I am smart. It just makes me think about the movie The Help, where the maid used to tell the little girl, she's like, you are smart, you are kind. So those are the types of things. It's self-monitoring. Practice using timers and those social stories that we talked about earlier. Again, you'll notice that a lot of things that they kind of spill over into other areas. Okay? Yes, and I'm glad Jenny put that in there. If you are available, we have a Tools for Success conference tomorrow at the Schultz Center. I believe it starts at 8 o'clock or 8:30.
8:30, I believe. I think registration to come in and sign in is 8:30. Your first session that you can attend would be 9 o'clock, and there's several to choose from. And there are also vendors from the community that have access to information and support for students who have disabilities. So if you're available, tomorrow would be great for you to come to the Schultz Center. And if not, then look forward to do it again next year. But email Phyllis and me for whatever, and we will certainly connect with you and assist.
Yes, and that is it for strategies for student success. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second then, because I want to put a link into your chat box. I say I'm going to, but I'm technology. Here we go. So the link that I'm going to post is just a small, simple survey for you to give us feedback on your participation and attendance today and the information you received. We love getting information from you to make things better. And just know that we're here for you. So Phyllis shared with you that we do support Duval, Clay, and Nassau, and we're happy to help whatever your needs are. Look on our website, fiddlerscrown.org. Let me put that in here as well, fiddlerscrown.org. You can look to see what trainings are currently being offered. We are going to put a survey on there that gives you information about what we offer, even if it's not currently scheduled. So know that we're a resource for you, and we hope you found this information today to be helpful and beneficial for you.